Good morning everybody. So today we're going to be looking at thinking of some ideas that you're going to be using in your letter so that you know what you're going to be writing, you know exactly who you're going to be writing to and what you're going to be telling them. So we're going to start to have a look at this today. So I first want you to have a think about what these questions are. So what is the purpose of a letter and why do we need to write letters, or why do we write letters? So I'd like you to have a pause the video now. I want you to have a think about these two questions, maybe have a talk to your friends, or if you're at school, or your family, or your parents, or your siblings, and discuss, have a little discussion of what is a letter and why do we use them. Once you've done that, if you play the video, and then I'll show you the next part. Come up with some ideas here of a letter is something that we write to somebody for somebody else to read. The reason why we might write a letter is sometimes in the olden days we didn't have things like telephones or laptops or computers or technology, so the only way to get in contact with a friend or a family member was to write them a letter and to receive a letter to share information. So another reason why we use letters is to share information. It might be an invitation to something, to tell them somebody about something that you've been doing. It might be something inviting them to come over for a party, or any reasons really why you would write a letter. So this is why we need to write letters, and they're so important because it really does show that caring nature of you've put the effort in to write the letter, rather than just giving them a phone call. If you put in that effort to write the letter and to send them a letter, and some people as well might not have access to phones and technology, so receiving a letter is something, another way that they can communicate with you and for you to communicate with them. So I'd like you now to have a go at doing a spider diagram. So you might write something like things to tell my grandparents. So for example, in my waggle, my person was writing a letter to their grandparents. Now if you have decided that you're not writing a letter to your grandparents, that you're writing it to a friend or to a different family member, you will obviously change out the grandparents part to whoever it is you are writing the letter to. So I want you to write a little bubble, things to tell my grandparents, or things to tell my friend, or things to tell my cousins. And then I want you to think of what you have done over the last few weeks that would really brighten up their day for you to tell them exactly what you've been doing. It could be something you've done over the half term, over the week off. It could be some schoolwork that I've been setting at home, or it could be some other interesting things that you've been up to. So I'd like you now to spend a little bit of time and writing as many things that you could think of that you think that your grandparents or whoever it is you are writing to would enjoy to read in their letter. So now I'd like you to have a go at adding some extra detail. So you've got the basic bullet points, the basic points of what you might want to tell your grandparents or your family or your friends. And now I'd like you to add a little bit more detail, thinking about exactly what you will tell the person. So instead of saying, for example, you might have said things to tell my grandparents, you might have put gardening. Now I'd like you to go and add a little bit more extra there and tell your grandparents exactly what you've been gardening. I've been growing sunflowers from planting sunflower seeds in the garden. So I want you to go and add a little bit of extra detail. You could also put some opinions in there as well, so something that you've enjoyed. It could be something that you might have found quite a challenge, but you've persevered and you finally got it. So for example, if you know that you've been working really hard on your time, it might be something like that you'd like to share with your grandparents. So I'd like you now to go back and add in this extra little bit of detail onto your spider diagram. If, for example, you've not got the room to do that, you can just write some sentences underneath. That is absolutely fine also. Now, you might also want to include some generalizing words. So these include sometimes, never, usually, always, generally, perhaps, occasionally, the majority, often, in addition, maybe, in general, and presumably. So when you're talking about your opinions, you might want to say, sometimes I have found time quite challenging. However, occasionally I have started to understand how to use an analog clock. So for example, that's an example of what you could do. So I'd now like you, if you've not wrote any opinions yet, or you've not got any generalizing words, see if you can now go and add one of these words or two of these, a couple of these words into your opinions or into your sentences that you've just wrote, just to give that a little bit more detail. Once you've had a chance to have a go at doing all of this, I'd love to see your ideas on Seesaw, so please do upload them onto Seesaw so I can have a look at the fantastic work that you've been doing at home.